ASCII Ads Peer Group's PAX 8 rolls out 3 cloud marketplace upgrades, Axcient's all-new marketing portal, cloud repatriation, myth or reality, the 2019 ChannelPro Readers Choice Awards, and more. It's ChannelPro Weekly, episode 113, Continuous Degradation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode 113. My name is Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and host of this fine program for people like Rich, people who travel, people who are in the channel, people who are into IT, people who used to work for Microsoft, which is a lot of people. Joining me each and every week, executive editor Rich Freeman.
But I am an absolute perfect fit for this podcast. I do all those things.
Amazing how that works out, right? I mean, really, I think just working for Microsoft at one point is all the cred you need for this particular program.
Well, I've got that. I've got that in spades.
Fantastic. So you are not at home. We don't see your magic bookcase there behind you. We see a hotel room.
Indeed. My home away from home, a hotel room somewhere in America, right? I am at the fabulous Bellagio, in fact, in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I've been here all week attending the CompTIA ChannelCon show, and that officially wrapped up yesterday. I'm flying home a little bit after we record this podcast.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about that event and how it went.
It went great. It went, if you work in the channel, you live in the channel like we do. ChannelCon is actually a terrific event to go to every year because everywhere you look, you see somebody you know. I mean, pretty much everyone who's visible, important, significant in the channel, they're all here at this show. And so for me, that's great just from like a social point of view. I get to say hello to a lot of people I know, but it's also great from a work point of view in that I get to sit down with lots of vendors face to face, some of whom I don't necessarily see on a frequent basis on the road. So it was a very busy week, lots and lots of meetings running back and forth in this conference space, but I did get lots of good stuff out of it. And CompTIA puts on a good show just in terms of the content that they present as well. And so from that standpoint, too, it was a good show.
Fantastic. Yeah, that sounds like it was a lot of fun, and people learned a lot, I hope.
Yeah, I think so. I think so that, and you can still take a peek at the agenda and look at all the session topics that they were talking about. One of the great things about CompTIA, and actually my buddy and video co-host Eric Simpson and I were talking about this on the latest episode of our ChannelPro 5-minute roundup video. But CompTIA plays this sort of unique role in the channel, basically, where there are other sources of information and insight, but none that are quite as tightly embedded with the channel as CompTIA is. They do a really great job of looking down the road, essentially, and alerting channel partners, alerting vendors to issues that are maybe 3-5 years away that people kind of need to be thinking about now. And that turns out to be sort of, from a CompTIA standpoint, that was really kind of their key theme or announcement at the show. They launched something at the show called the Future of Tech Initiative. And if you go to futureoftech.org, you can see what that's about. But basically, they're just calling attention to a handful of next generation technologies that we're all familiar with. Artificial intelligence, big data, 5G, blockchain, drones. These are the technologies that are sort of going to define the next decade. And CompTIA is doing what CompTIA does, and nobody else really does in quite the same way. They're investing a lot of time and energy through their members from the vendor community and from the partner community, and researching those topics and sort of identifying use cases and entry points from a go-to-market standpoint for CompTIA members. And they're investing heavily in research. They have this great research arm at CompTIA that's out there generating research studies and churning out white papers. And they really, and they understand, they made a point of emphasizing in the keynote when they were announcing this Future of Tech initiative that the average CompTIA member is working huge hours running a business. It's not easy to carve out time to study up on this stuff, but it is important to do. And they're really making a point of producing the content for people to familiarize and start thinking about these technologies, and then really driving members to find, even if it's 15 minutes a day or whatever, to begin studying up on some of this stuff, because it's going to be more and more important as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And another good thing that happens at these CompTIA shows every year now is the Cecilia Galvin Award. Isn't that correct?
That is absolutely right. So, you know what? I for all the reasons I just discussed, great show. Really glad I came here. But for that alone, that would have justified the trip. I would have gone home with a smile on my face. So, and this was on the very first day of the show. It's Thursday as we record this, and I got here late Sunday because I wanted to make absolutely certain I was right up there in the front row on Monday morning for the award ceremony announcing the winners of the second annual Advancing Women in IT Spotlight Awards. And there are 4 of these handed out every year. 3 of them go to women who are in the profession today and in various ways are really performing as role models for other women who are in or could potentially get into IT, maybe because they're especially great mentors or they're demonstrating technical leadership, for example. But the 4th of the awards is the CompTIA ChannelPro Cecilia Galvin Scholarship Award, and that is named after our still sorely missed friend and ChannelPro's original executive editor, Cecilia Galvin, who passed away in June of 2017. We were looking for a way to keep her memory alive and honor her legacy in the channel and at ChannelPro, and in partnership with CompTIA, we came up with this scholarship award. Cecilia herself was sort of a pioneering woman in the technology world as a journalist and an editor. She was somebody who very much appreciated how difficult it can be for other women to get into the industry, and very supportive of women entering the industry. And so it was just a great idea, basically, and a great partnership that we formed with CompTIA to create an award that goes to a deserving high school senior who is interested in pursuing an IT career. And this year, it's a $5,000 scholarship award that goes to someone that, and they can apply it to a technical school, CompTIA training, a 2-year or 4-year college. And as it happens, the young woman who won this year will be attending, I think it's Georgia State next year, funded in part with the scholarship award that she got through the Advancing Women in IT Award program.
That is fantastic. I can't think of a better way to honor her. She was a fantastic woman, and it's so. Tell us a little bit about the winner. What did you learn about her?
So she is quite remarkable. She really is. And, last year, so this is the second year we've handed out these awards. And we had the inaugural winner on the podcast with us last year. I hope to have this year's winner on with us as well at some point soon. Last year's winner was tremendous. So you kind of wondered in year 2, are we going to be able to continue that high standard? And we absolutely did. As I was writing up my coverage of the award ceremony and writing about this young woman, I remember thinking to myself, there are going to be people reading this who don't actually believe what I'm writing. Like they're going to think I'm making it up. Her name is Destiny Adams, the winner. She graduated from high school in the Atlanta area at age 16. She goes into college starting in the fall. In the intervening years between leaving high school and going into college, she has participated in I won't even tick them off, but she's participated in a number of different organizations that are dedicated to getting kids generally and young women in particular involved in STEM-related activities, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. She is, I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe she's 18 years old. She has already mentored 1,000 kids. Wow. In one way or another. She has, and this was the part, I was writing this was where I thought to myself, people are going to think I'm making this up. So she is already the contributing author to a book about why kids should be interested in STEM topics and pursue those. She has a second book, 18 years old. Her second book is coming out next month, and that one is more personal. It's more about her and her journey to STEM and what that can maybe teach other people like her. She has traveled overseas. She applied to a program. There was going to be this international gathering of young women interested in STEM in Malawi in Africa. I think it was like 1,300 or 1,400 people from the U.S. applied to participate in this. 20 were selected. She was one of those. It goes on and on. I'm like scratching the surface. She's a really remarkable young woman. And it's just great that we get to, in a small way, make a contribution to her future, which I think is going to be a bright one, to be sure.
That's fantastic. And on that, at that rate, let's see, if 18, second book, I should have, 75 books by now. If not more than that. I better get cracking on the writing of the books.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I do hope we get her on. I would love to talk with her and meet her and hear a little bit more about her story. It sounds fascinating. I mean, anybody who's a kid and working to keep kids involved in STEM fields, which is super important. That's a great thing. So very, very cool. But CompTIA is not the only show going on or the only company in the news. Good old ASCII Group has got something going on. Well, tell us about that, Rich.
Yeah, well, this is kind of interesting. There is a new player in the peer group space, folks. So you are probably familiar with HTG, or the former HTG, which is now IT Nation Evolve, part of ConnectWise, since early last year.
Formerly known as. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. We could keep going. There are lots of other organizations. Baring McKinley has peer groups. Taylor Business Group has a peer group organization. Our buddy Dave Seibert, who has recently been on the podcast with us, has his own peer group organization. So there are lots of other entities like this in this space, and a lot of people who swear by the peer group model. And now there is a newcomer in the ASCII Group. And so ASCII has been around, 35 years, I believe, at this point. They have a pretty extensive roster of benefits for their members in terms of, discounted software. And one of the reasons channel pros have been joining ASCII Group for a long time is just the access to peers, other members, and the ability to exchange advice with them and so on. But there's a limit to the kind of information that ASCII members will share with one another in a typical ASCII Group forum. I mean, when you start really kind of opening up the books and getting into the financials, for example, people start to get nervous about sharing that information with other companies that could potentially be competitors. And so ASCII Group saw an opportunity basically to enhance member benefits by adding peer groups to the model over there. And they've been sort of test driving this for the last year and have been encouraged enough by the results to go ahead and officially launch what they're calling the ASCII Insider Program. That's the name of their peer group organization. They've got 5 groups up and running already. They're looking to have about 15 in operation by this time next year. Each group's limited to about 10 members. They will meet chiefly through video conferencing software a couple of times a month for about 90 minutes. Optionally, if groups want to, they can get together face-to-face as well. And, ASCII does live events, about 10, 12 live events a year, and they're kind of encouraging groups that are interested in meeting face-to-face to use one of those events as a venue for that.
I can interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the math here. We were talking about STEM fields and mathematics.
Yeah.
So I was doing math in my head.
Okay.
How many ASCII members are there?
Let me just check that for you real quick. I want to say 1,300, but let me get you the right number.
Okay, 1,300.
Yeah, let's just...
Yeah. Okay, so we're not talking tens of thousands here. Okay, that's actually a lower number than I was thinking, because I was sitting here thinking 15 groups with 10 members each is only like 150 people who are participating in this particular thing. And I was thinking ASCII was much, much larger than 1,300. So maybe I guess it's about the kind of participation you would think.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing to keep in mind. So I can't get into the specific. I have been numbers have been shared with me. I can't necessarily share them here on the podcast, and I don't think anyone who launches a peer group organization wants to sort of position themselves as the low cost leader exactly. So this isn't the aspect of the program that that ASCII emphasizes, but there is an incremental fee over and above your membership fee as an ASCII member to participate in these groups. It is apparently a significantly lower fee than peer group members in some of these other organizations I was talking about before are paying. But there is a monthly fee that you have to pay, again, over and above your membership fee to participate in these. And so, yeah, this time next year, you're looking at 150 out of 1,300 ASCII Group members maybe in those peer groups. That kind of factors into it as well. There is an investment not only of time but of money required to do this.
Okay, makes sense. Yep, that sounds like it's more reasonable. But Rich, you are allowed to share numbers on the podcast.
Ordinarily, I am, unless somebody says, "I'll tell you this off the record," and in that case, I am professionally bound to keep that number private.
But you can share other numbers. Rich,
sure.
42.
42.
I just shared a number. Can you share a number?
47.
You went above my 42. How dare you, sir? You said you would keep that private.
Yeah, you see. Cannot trust me. Yeah. Cannot trust
you with the number sharing. All right, well that sounds good. So what if any of our listeners or viewers here are ASCII members, what would be the one paragraph selling point for this? What would they get out of it that they wouldn't get just being an ASCII member? Why do they want to be in one of these groups?
So the answer to that would basically, it would basically be the benefits that come from being in a peer group. I mean, a somewhat harder question to answer is just, why this particular peer group organization versus some of the others we talked about, aside from the fact that it is less expensive and so on. And then you have to start researching what's different about the different models and so on. But if you believe in the peer group model, if you believe in really sharing in-depth information about your business with other people and having them share that information with you and the benefits that can provide. And I will just say that through the years, talking to people who are in peer groups, they will swear up and down that it has made a huge difference in their business and in their life. So that would sort of be the one paragraph answer is that all the evidence that we have available to us at ChannelPro suggests peer groups work. And if you're an ASCII member, this is a particularly easy way to test that proposition out.
I sold. Sign me up.
He's in.
I'll be there next week.
Yeah.
No, that sounds good. So we'll put a link to this story and all the other stories. So if you're listening on the audio podcast, go to channelpronetwork.com and find the show notes for this page. They're pretty easy to find, or the show notes for this particular episode. And all of the stories that we're talking about, we'll have links there to everyone. So as you listen, you can even go to these and you can follow along the stories or see it after the fact. If you're watching on YouTube or another video platform, same thing. We go to the description area for the video and we drop all the links in there for you to follow along. Normally, we also put the links in the chat as we're doing live, but we can't do live at the moment because Google took away the Hangouts on Air feature, and we didn't really have a good alternative replacement for that in place yet to do it live, but we will. We were talking about that before we started, and we'll have all that figured out in the near future.
I wonder how many, like hundreds of thousands or millions of people, I guess, have been disrupted by the end of that Google functionality. Because I actually, I had two things I was doing every week with that. The 5-minute roundup video I was talking about before and this podcast. And now it's like on both those fronts, it's what do I do now? We can't be the only ones. There must be huge numbers of people out there who are wondering, now what?
Yeah, I think, I don't know the exact number that it would have affected, because it only would have affected people who hosted live podcasts or, live discussions on YouTube specifically. and there's a lot of other streaming platforms. But it certainly did make, like, it wasn't the greatest in the world, but it certainly did make it easy to get a bunch of people on a podcast.
That was the thing, yeah.
And get it live and recorded really quick. So we'll find out that there's other options. We'll find it. Just, some of them are a little bit more of a pain in the butt than that, because it was super easy. That was always what we liked about it. It was bing, bang, boom, quick. We were done. We were up and we were live. We'll get all that straightened out, folks, and then we'll have the shows live again, where you can come in and you can post questions or follow along in the chat and all that stuff live. So, but you won't see a live show for probably a week or two while we get all that figured out. It's all about that cloud stuff, Rich. They take away the cloud services, because normally you want to upgrade the cloud. I mean, YouTube's a cloud video streaming platform. But that, I would say, that did not make it better. But PAX 8 actually rolled out upgrades to their cloud marketplace. So tell me about that.
Nicely segued, by the way. Yes. So also in the news this week, 3 upgrades to the PAX 8 marketplace. So PAX 8, as I think at this point most of our readers know, because in a lot of ways, PAX 8 has come out of nowhere in the last 4 or 5 years to become a huge presence in the SMB channel. But they are a cloud computing distributor, and they have introduced 3 enhancements to their online cloud marketplace. And the interesting thing about this story is that individually, those 3 upgrades that I'll describe in just a moment here are really not that huge or significant. And that's actually what makes this story kind of interesting to me. It's just the latest in an ongoing wave of this kind of thing. So first, I'll just tell you what they announced this week. The product catalog at PAX 8, originally they kind of positioned themselves as a boutique distributor of cloud computing solutions. They very carefully curated a list of the best solutions in different categories, and so it was maybe a smaller catalog than you could get elsewhere, but it was stuff that was really good and that they could go deep on. The product catalog has been growing, and especially I would say in the last 12, 18 months. So, they're looking to provide their customers with multiple choices in each of these categories now. And so more choices means more stuff to search for on the marketplace, and potentially the information you're looking for becomes a little harder to find. So they have upgraded or modified the search tool in the marketplace, which is part of their OmniDash portal. And essentially, they consolidated a number of separate search tools into one search box, and you can search for any kind of information you're looking for: customer, product, billing, whatever. It's all in this one search tool. It makes it easier to navigate the site.
The Lord of the Rings of search boxes, the one box to rule them all.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a good. got to pass that on to PAX 8 and see if they adopt that. They added some granularity to the reporting that you're able to do if you're on usage-based solutions. I mean, most of the solutions PAX 8 distributes are billed on a flat monthly rate subscription kind of model, the classic SaaS model, but there are consumption-based products as well. And in some cases where several of those products were bundled together into one offer, you couldn't break out the consumption and the revenue, et cetera, on a product-by-product basis. That's something that partners were asking them about, so that they could pull the data into their PSA system more easily, and that has been addressed. There's a company out there I think a lot of listeners will have at least heard of called Synchro MSP. They make RMM and PSA software. We've written about them a little bit in ChannelPro. They are the latest PAX 8 integration partner. And so now from within the Synchro PSA interface, you can go directly into the PAX 8 marketplace, and without actually exiting the PSA, you can look up information, place orders, etc. So, none of these updates individually is earth-shattering, right? But they all speak to a larger theme at PAX 8, basically, which is they really want to make customer experience a competitive differentiator for them. They want to excel in customer experience as a way of attracting and retaining partners. And a big part of how they're going to do that is to just continuously roll out enhancements as quickly as possible, so that they're constantly soliciting feedback from partners, and then in as short a time as they can manage, adding these features to the system. And one of the interesting things I learned in talking about this week's updates with them is there have actually been 60 enhancements already just this year, since January this year. So it's kind of a new approach for them, and part of their competitive strategy to just keep rolling out these small but useful enhancements to the platform.
Well, that's good. I mean, user experience is always good, and I guess that makes sense as a direction, assuming that the other marketplaces are not very user friendly. But there's a danger. There's a danger to development by mob. In other words, all this feedback and adding every little thing in. If you ever looked at certain programs on your computer, Rich, then you go into the settings, and there's like 8,000 different checkboxes and settings for things. You ever seen that before?
Oh, certainly, yeah.
So that is the result of years and years and years of adding little enhancements to things. So sometimes, I mean, usually it's a good thing, but sometimes you can enhance something so much that it becomes less user-friendly.
Yeah, understood. I mean, I don't think Pax8's strategy is to add everything a user suggests to the system. I think there has to be a certain kind of groundswell of opinion out there that this particular enhancement would have. I mean, you can quickly destroy customer experience by being too responsive in that way to customer feedback, and I suspect they're mindful of that.
I would think so, but it's worth pointing out that when you have a product and a user experience, then you get a lot of development ideas through feedback to balance that and to make sure that it really is something that benefits the whole instead of just the one.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. But that's good. But things like a unified search box, I mean, no one's going to complain about that.
Right.
And some other stuff. So hopefully they're doing that well. Now, are the other marketplaces harder to use or less user friendly than Pax8's?
Not necessarily. No, Pax8 might have a different opinion about that, but I think actually this strategy of theirs is one that is becoming more and more common. I mean, not just specifically in the cloud distribution world, but really just in the vendor world. It's like one of the interesting things for me, just talking about a totally different market, the security market. For a company as prominent in the MSP space as Webroot, I really haven't written a ton about them in the last few years. And part of the reason for that is they are on this sort of, agile development, continuous improvement model where they're rolling out new functionality, adding functionality to their products continuously. And as a result, there's not some, big release every few months that they can point to in a press release and that I can write up in an article. I think this kind of model where you're just looking to incrementally improve as quickly and continuously as you can is becoming more and more common. And I'm sure there are folks listening now at Ingram Micro who are saying, "Hey, it's we're every bit as focused on customer experience and we're tweaking and improving our platform all the time."
That is the popular model these days. It was very interesting. I noticed the other day that Microsoft has like an Office 2019 SKU now. I don't know if you even noticed that.
No.
But it used to be Office 2016, and then now there's like this. But it's not like it was it's an improvement over, I guess, the last 2016 SKU. But if you're on Office 365 like us, we've been getting all of those features like that every single update.
Right.
It's just like a snapshot of what stuff like we've had now for 2 years. So it's just interesting that model is definitely better for people, especially because things don't dramatically change from one release to the next. But it does take the wind out of the sail of being able to put a big, gangbuster release out there and say, look at all this amazing stuff that we did.
Yeah. Yeah, and that and it kind of speaks to that whole customer experience theme again. It's like your selling point isn't that version 3.1 of our platform has these amazing features. That your selling point is the relationship you have with your customers and maybe underlying platform level advantages that you have over competitors. It's like these bigger, less transitory kinds of themes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unless you're YouTube, and then the model is incremental degradation. Right? Sorry, this is pick on YouTube day.
Yeah. That's a zig where others zag kind of model there, isn't it? It's easy to focus on continuous improvement. Let's see somebody follow us down the track of continuous degradation.
Yeah, definitely harder for for the marketing teams though.
Yeah.
And speaking of marketing, Axcient is also in the news, and they have unveiled a new marketing portal. Have they had an old one?
They did, and at this point now that they've replaced it, they're comfortable talking about it. But it's not something that they were terribly proud of before. Essentially, in the past, they had what was really kind of a glorified file share. So an e-folder, the former e-folder, is part of Axcient, and essentially they had set up an e-folder site that was full of collateral items, slide decks and white papers and product briefs and so on. And you could go find what you were looking for and download it and do what you were going to do. They've replaced that with a much, much more sophisticated, automated, workflow-based marketing platform or portal now. And they have creatively named it the Axcient Marketing Portal, with the acronym being AMP. So that actually works out kind of nicely. And they've got 3 modules now. They've got other ones coming up here. So right now, they have an MDF module where you can apply for MDF and collaborate online with Axcient on running events where you're spending MDF, and they can actually assist you in that case with building invite lists. There's a collateral component that sort of replaces that file share I was talking about before. And what is the third one here? Campaign management. So there's a whole set of social media and email-based marketing campaigns where you bring your list, but end to end they'll help you build and roll out a complete lead generation campaign. The software underlying the platform comes from MindMatrix. Longtime fans of vendor marketing portals will know that the MindMatrix name shows up a lot. I think the first time I remember coming across it was several years ago now, when Autotask rolled out a new marketing portal. It was based on MindMatrix stuff. Datto has a marketing portal based on MindMatrix. So Axcient has joined that club as well. And one reason being, I think the MindMatrix folks really kind of live in the MSP world, so they speak the same language as a lot of these vendors. I think that makes it easier for folks to work with them. There was a lot of back-end integration that Axcient did with help from MindMatrix that allowed them to create what Axcient refers to as a sort of a single sign-on experience. So they've integrated the marketing portal with their CRM system and some of the other back-end systems so that you're not logging into different portals and copying information from one place to the other. The data just kind of flows around where it needs to go. 2 interesting things, though, that are sort of coming up. And it's just like, buried towards the end of my article, but it's interesting. So at a point, an unspecified point in the future, but this year, they're going to be adding a sort of points system to the marketing portal. And essentially what they're going to be trying to do is encourage people to use the portal, drive engagement with it, because they have built it all around best practices, and they really feel like if they can get their partners using the portal, the partners will sell more and everybody will benefit from that. So they're going to create this point system where the more engaged you are with the platform, the more points you get. You can trade the points in for MDF or rebates or swag or all sorts of stuff. But the other thing that the points will do for you down the road is provide a sort of measuring rod to Axcient of how engaged you are in general as a partner. And later on, at some point, the Axcient folks are going to be introducing an advertising campaign, or a marketing campaign, I should say, where they're going to begin marketing their products directly to end users, collecting leads from those end users, and then farming those out to their MSP partners. And the partners with the most points through the marketing platform are going to be the ones who are first in line to get those leads. So some interesting stuff. This is kind of forward-looking now. I'm not sure. It's at least a few months down the road before some of this stuff starts materializing. But I'm sure we will be talking about that in the podcast at some point in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, well, they missed an obvious collaboration joint effort with AMP energy drinks to get those for your points, because, you know, you got the AMP portal, you get your AMP energy drinks. I think partners would probably much rather have leads to sell instead, but that would have been a good brand co-op that they could have done.
Yeah.
Get your AMP with AMP. AMP with AMP. We could go on with that. Or
what about like battery chargers or something like that? There might be some tie-in there around amps.
Yeah. A free car battery charger for everybody. Why not, right? Why not? All right, well, good. That sounds like a good improvement for Axcient partners. And, you know, anytime you're going to get in line first for leads based on points, that's a good reason to try to be involved. Yeah. But it's another thing. It's another thing to be involved with.
Yep. No, that's very true. And at some point in the next week or so, I've got a story. I had a really interesting conversation with Andra Hedden, who you know, she's the CMO at Marketopia. And we just had a really interesting conversation about some of the gaps between what partners need from their vendors around marketing and what the vendors deliver. And one of the things that she, you know, really called attention to is just that if you're partnering with 30 different vendors, that's 30 different portals to keep track of. And, you know, some vendors are not as sensitive to that as they should be in terms of just making their marketing portal and marketing tools super easy to use, because the MSPs want to get in and get out. Essentially, they've already got too many portals that they're juggling.
Yeah, there's always that single pane of glass, right, Rich?
Yeah,
that'll never happen.
Yep,
all the portals. It's a lot to manage. Which is helpful when you have good management tools, particularly like the ones that Buffalo just put out for their NAS devices.
Yeah, let's talk single pane of glass here while we're on the subject. So, Buffalo America's well known for their NAS devices, particularly from the TerraStation line.
Yep, very popular. Good stuff.
Yeah, they have always had management tools, management software, obviously for those systems, but it's been kind of one-off. Essentially, you manage one device at a time with that software. And what they have done just this week is introduce their first multi-tenant management solution. It's really specifically for MSPs. If you've got a fleet of TerraStations out there at multiple customer sites, you now have the fabled single pane of glass where you can see them all and manage them all. And so that aspect alone, just the fact that there's now a consolidated interface where you can administer all of your TerraStation devices out in the field, that's pretty significant. But they've added some management functionality as well that wasn't available through the former platform, some of which should enable MSPs to reduce truck rolls a bit. You're not going to have to go out to a customer site and touch the device quite as often as you had to before to deal with certain issues. So another case of creative naming here, and this is not me, poking fun at Buffalo Bill Rhodes, the director of channel sales, who I interviewed about this, pointed out to me, very creative naming. It's called the Remote Management Service, RMS. It is free of charge to anybody with a supported TerraStation device. You don't have to even be a Buffalo partner per se. If you're an MSP who's supporting a TerraStation somewhere, you can get this software for free right now. Now, right now, it supports TerraStations from the 5010 and 3010 product series, which are the latest generation. Over time, Buffalo is going to expand the support to some of the older generation products, which are still out there in pretty good size quantities right now.
You'd be amazed how many partners will inherit a lot of Buffalo TerraStations, because they have a lot of great video surveillance packages with cameras.
Right.
So there's a lot of those out there, and having one tool to manage those would be very handy. But they got to roll in the old stuff.
Yep.
And Rich, I love the name. I love it. It's direct, it's clear, and it doesn't have the word one in it.
Exactly.
Buffalo one buffalo. One
Could have happened.
Yeah, I'm sure the marketing guy there was like, we should call this one station or something like that.
Right.
Somebody there who was strong-willed said no. Simple, clear, direct, remote name. I love it. Sorry, I'm pounding on my desk. If you want to know why I'm all hopped up on that, folks, go just watch a lot of older shows. You'll understand why I hate the word one in marketing names. So, it's a long ongoing joke for us here. Cool. Well, you said it's free and you don't have to be a partner to use it. You just go get it. And if you got a bunch of terror stations, even a few one-offs, you got 3 of them. Well, you may as well have one tool to run them all. Yeah.
As I understand it, you go to the website where this is available to be. It's 100% cloud-based, so you go to whatever that URL is. There is some process. They want to know that you're actually an MSP, because this is designed for MSP, so somehow or another they will validate that with you, and they want to know that you have a Terra station to support. But those bars are relatively low. If you clear those, you can use it for free. Awesome.
Go walk. Run, do not walk to their website. We'll put the link to the story in the show notes, so that way people can go and they can find that product and use that if you're doing some Buffalo Terror stations. Good for Buffalo. I'm glad that they did that, and they're not holding it hostage, and they're making it easy to get, because that's the way the Buffalo folks work. I know a lot of folks from Buffalo over the years. They are very nice people who love partners and want to make it easy and have great products. So they didn't pay me to say that. I think very highly of the Buffalo folks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do too. We know a bunch of folks over at that company, and that channel organization in particular, I think, is really focused on personal relationships with partners in a way that's kind of nice. It
would make partners, and particularly readers of ChannelPro, it would make them fall in love with a company like that, because companies who are like that, they get a lot of people who like them, and a lot of people who will vote for them in certain awards things that people do, particularly like our Readers Choice Awards.
Yes.
Which I'm on fire with the segues today, man.
Clear out, people.
Now I'm having fun today. So and we recently just did the Readers Choice Awards. We just published the results. They went online August 1st. I believe the magazine with those in there will be hitting this week, I would assume.
Yeah, any day now.
Yeah, any day. So let's talk Readers Choice Awards.
And
after my phone stops ringing.
Should we pause and listen to that? No, okay. So this is one of those big calendar milestones for us at ChannelPro. Every year around this time, we publish the results of our annual Readers' Choice Awards, and we have a few awards programs at ChannelPro, and a few months from now we'll be talking about the winners of our All-Star Awards. And the All-Star Awards is when the editorial team gets together and decides who are the vendors that we think did something really exciting in the last year. But as the name suggests, the Readers' Choice Awards are really all about what the readers think is cool out there. We have 50 different categories, product categories, other kind of related categories around things like partner programs. And we put a poll out there, and we ask our readers to chime in and tell us who are your favorites in all of these different categories. And it is just a fascinating thing every year to wait and see what people are going to be voting on. And so we are once again publishing the results of the Readers' Choice Awards for 2019. It's right up top on the ChannelProNetwork.com website right now. I encourage folks to dive in, take a look around, see how your preferences compare to your peers.
It's a lot of categories. It's a lot of categories, man. We've removed some over the years. We've removed quite a few, but we really do try to get recognition for these vendors that do and excel in because there's lots of companies that do one thing really well, or they do two things, they do one thing really well, and it's good to make sure everybody gets a chance to compete. But it's a lot of categories though. But let's talk about some of the categories. We kind of have them in groups. There's the Managed Services Awards, right? And in there you'll find things like best quoting solution, best integrated ARM MPSA, best remote monitoring and management. Any of those that you want to comment on?
Well, I mean, I'll just sort of comment in general. ConnectWise won so in each one of these 50 categories, we hand out a gold, a silver, and a bronze medal, essentially, just based on who finished first, second, and third in the voting. ConnectWise swept the managed services, the core managed services categories this year. And I mean, off the top of my head, I'm not sure that I can remember the last time one vendor took home the gold medal in all those different categories. So a very good year for ConnectWise, which is interesting.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did quite well. We also do, but we have a bunch of distributor awards, and Ingram did pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, that and nothing new there, basically. So what is it, like 8 different distributor categories that we have? Yes, and for a number of years, Ingram just swept the gold medals in all 8 categories year after year. And I mean, they've got a closet full of gold medals at this point. It was a kind of a big deal last year when Tech Data won a gold medal in one of those 8 categories and sort of broke that streak of all the gold medals going to Ingram. Same thing happened this year. I forget which of the medals it is, which of the golds that Tech Data won. But
best distributor sales support was
okay.
Tech Data. Yeah, and that was a surprise. That was good. It's good to see. I'd like to see a little more competition in the distributor awards.
Right.
Not that we dislike Ingram. I mean, I'd love to see them win, but I mean, come on. We got to see somebody give these guys a run for their money.
Yeah. It's you don't want it to be too predictable, and it's not.
Yeah, and let's see, Datto did well in a bunch of awards. They didn't take gold and everything. I'm usually used to seeing when Datto was on there. They're usually taken first, but they got several silvers and bronzes this year. They got they compete in a lot more stuff than they used to.
I was going to say. I mean, in the BDR category, in the BDR category, they're up there. But yeah, it's like the PSA stuff where they're kind of new, which is even surprising that they're new in that kind of stuff and placing very, very well. So anyone else you want to call out? We did some we've cut back a lot on the hardware awards, but we still got a few out there. We have let's see, we got best laptop and hybrid. Hybrid went to Lenovo, which is not surprising. They make a lot of really good hybrids, with Microsoft coming in second there usually for the Surface and the Surface Book. They have some ultra premium hybrids. See, desktops, I think, went to Dell, and then Lenovo in desktops is silver was kind of surprising. I thought HP would take the silver in that. Yeah.
But so that's pretty good. A lot of Lenovo readers out there voting on these. And who else? It was also the best laptop. Also went to Lenovo too. They don't always win that one every year. They do really well in the hybrid category. I got that backwards. Lenovo usually does really well in the laptop category, not always in the hybrid category, but they've done well in both of those this year. So that's kind of nice. Any other ones you want to point out?
Well, I mean, a few things that were a little interesting. So you may or may not remember a year ago when we were talking about the 2018 Readers' Choice Awards. One of the awards that we spoke about a little bit was the Best Private Cloud Computing vendor, and the gold medal winner last year in that category was Microsoft, which had never won any private cloud award at any level in years past, and all of a sudden they kind of vaulted up to gold. And we were kind of wondering, is this a fluke? Is this Azure Stack, their Azure Stack solution, which is sort of a private cloud version of the software that powers the Azure public cloud? Not only did Microsoft win gold again this year, it was by an even bigger margin. I think, what was it? 55.6% of the vote. So it was not a fluke. I don't know for sure if it's Azure Stack, but 2 years running, over 50% of our voters choose Microsoft as their favorite. They have really, cemented themselves a place in this category.
Wow. Yeah, that's surprising. I mean, normally you'd think public cloud, not necessarily private with them. And they do well on the public cloud too.
Sure.
We have a public cloud award too, right?
Yes. How do we petition that? Because
is it best managed hosting cloud infrastructure? Is that it?
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, Microsoft took gold there too. AWS, not surprisingly, right behind them. SureWeb. Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
And Microsoft was gold in the cloud email collaboration solution category. That's Office 365. So not a huge.
Wasn't it last year, the first year Microsoft took gold in the file sync and share, which in the past they had never taken gold. Are they gold again for that?
Let's take a look.
I'm curious.
But yeah, you're right. They had been sort of chipping away at Dropbox.
Yes, they are gold.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's amazing. You fix that awful. Remember that horrible OneDrive for Business sync client?
Right.
It was the old Groove, sync client that just wasn't all that good. They replaced that and poof, all good.
Yeah.
And the fact that the sync client's kind of actually built into the OS is kind of gives them a little bit of an advantage too.
Yeah.
Dropbox, was it a dramatic vote for Microsoft, or was Dropbox really close? Because lots of people still love Dropbox.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I could look it up.
I'd be curious. And then Datto right behind them. All the file sync and shares. Datto is third.
Yeah, and they haven't been in that market all that long. I think
2017,
maybe 2016. So,
but normally you'd think like a Box.com or an eFolder, but no, it's pretty amazing that Datto was able to work their way into that position. Yeah, cool. Western Digital still on top in hard drives. That's good. Seagate not far behind. We dropped things like best processor because we have best SoC. That's probably still going to be Intel.
I will jump in quickly to say I just looked it up, and the gap between Microsoft and Dropbox and file sync and share is pretty dramatic.
Is it dramatic? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Well, I will say I also very, very do much like OneDrive these days, from both consumer and the business side, given that it's basically the same sync client now. But I like OneDrive a lot. I like Dropbox too, but I don't know. I've been using OneDrive now for so many years. I don't know if I could switch. Or if I would want, when I wouldn't want to, I would get the gold winner, Rich.
Yeah.
The gold winner. It's always good to have competition. Competition is good. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit too, about the importance of competition. Cool. All right. Anything else on Reader Choice Awards that we want to talk about?
I'll just point out one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, because there were two companies that won their first Reader's Choice Award ever, and one of those companies is Trend Micro. Can you believe we've been handing out awards all these years, and Trend Micro has never won an award this year? And in fact, if you do go to the website and look at the security categories, especially in the endpoint security category and the security suite category, in a lot of these 50 categories, you're going to see some consistency year over year. And, people tend to like the same monitor makers, for example. But in the security voting, there's so many different companies. There's so much product movement and partner program change year after year that there's just a lot of flux, a lot of change there. And Trend Micro has somewhat belatedly won their first award this year. And then in the security hardware space, the bronze medal went to Fortinet. Fortinet's never won one of our awards before, and I mean it's a company that I think a lot of people tend to associate with bigger businesses. So it was interesting to me to see them, have that kind of foothold with ChannelPro readers now as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, good. Well, congratulations to them for getting the Readers' Choice Awards. If you want to see the history of the Readers' Choice Awards, I mean, we track all this stuff going back on the site, so you can go back to 2015, 2014. You actually go to our directory, and you can find any company in our directory, and if you can click on them, and if they've won any awards in the past, you'll be able to see it there. So if they, so you can kind of see over time, were they silver or were they gold, and now are they getting silvers? Were they getting medals and now they're not? So it's kind of interesting to go and browse that, and the site tracks all that stuff.
Yep,
which is pretty fun. And shout out to our fine folks, fine friends at ViewSonic for getting best monitor again. I think they've won that every year, haven't they?
I think there was a gap in. I think they this year they're back in that position. I forget who won last year, unless I'm remembering wrong.
Well, I can actually click. I can do exactly what I just said and click them. Go to awards and honors, and I can tell you. Oh, they were actually they were silver for. Oh, they didn't even get placed in best monitor last year.
Okay,
that's what it was. Silver in best digital.
I've lost your audio, Matt.
Am I back? Hello.
Yes, you are back.
Okay, well, that was weird. I guess that's that the particular bug is not a bug with Hangouts on Air. It's an issue with this one. Which is a bummer. So I'm going to have to figure something out. I was saying, it actually, now that I look back, my memory is just not very good, I guess. They had been getting silver in Best Monitor every year until 2018, which then they didn't. But this was their first gold for Best Monitor.
Right, yeah.
So kudos to them for doing best. And they do make great monitors. I'm surprised they didn't get an award last year.
It is a little surprising, yeah. I can't remember who the top three finishers were in 2018, but yeah, interesting.
Very interesting, actually. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we like Rich said when we started talking about Readers' Choice Awards. Go to the website channelpronetwork.com. There's the right at the top. We've got it pinned. There's also a link in the nav menu. To go to the Readers Choice Awards tag, and you can see all the different award years. You can click on that and go and check them out, and look at all 50 categories and see if some of your favorite vendors placed gold, silver, or bronze in any of these respective categories. Indeed. All right, Rich.
Lost your audio again. Sorry about that.
All right. Am I back?
You are.
All right. We'll see how long it lasts.
We're going to start a pool, folks. You can get in on this.
Yeah, get in on the bets. I was saying I have no segue for this one.
You were on a streak.
I was on a streak, but how do you segue into cloud repatriation?
Yeah, that is a tough one.
That's a hard one. Although, well, some of these vendors No, not repatriate. They didn't repatriate. That doesn't even make it. Now, forget it. Cloud repatriation, myth or reality, is the topic, Rich. I say myth.
Well, it's an interesting issue to settle, myth or reality, because you start getting, I think, you start getting into semantics a little bit. But so cloud repatriation, this is a term and a concept that I've been running into with some frequency over the course of the last year or so. And the idea basically is that, we all know workloads are being migrated up into the cloud. But I keep hearing little hints, little rumors, little signs that some of those workloads maybe are coming back out of the cloud onto on-premises hardware. And that's the concept of cloud repatriation. And so this article, which appears in the latest issue of ChannelPro, asks the question, is this real? Is this really happening? Or is it really more like rumor or something that happens on such a small scale basis that it's not really worth pointing out to or dedicating a lot of attention to? And one reason why we did dedicate a lot of attention to it, or at least enough to support an article, was that there was some research in 2018 done by IDC. And they went to both big businesses and small businesses, and I don't have the breakout by SMB versus enterprise, but 80% of the organizations that they spoke to have migrated applications or data from a public cloud either to on-premises hardware or a private cloud. So there is some evidence out there to suggest that workloads that have been moved onto a public cloud platform like Azure or AWS, some of those, how many, we don't know, but it's not an uncommon thing for businesses to move something into a public cloud and then decide, actually, we would do better having this on on-premises hardware, whether that hardware is just standalone traditional on-premises hardware or hardware associated with a private cloud deployment. And that's where the semantics issue kind of gets into this a little bit, is some of the people who will tell you that there is no such thing as cloud repatriation will say that because so many of the workloads that are being moved from a public cloud into a private cloud. Well, that's all cloud, right? So it's not like people are giving up on cloud. They're just kind of giving up on the, in some cases, giving up on where the cloud is located, what kind of cloud it is, and so on. But there is at least some evidence to suggest that there are customers out there who are rethinking earlier decisions about what goes into the public cloud. And I'll say very quickly, when I was speaking, I mentioned Bill Rhodes from Buffalo Americas before, and when I was talking with him about their remote management tool, and I chatted with him a little bit just about conditions in the storage market right now, and it just so happened that this topic came up. He brought this topic up, that they are seeing at Buffalo some indication that terrace stations are gaining a little steam in the market with customers who are migrating data out of the cloud, or not necessarily in every case relocating the data entirely. In some cases, I think he was saying that they are replicating the data because they want to have access to it on site if they need to, if they have a connectivity issue or something like that. But in any event, at Buffalo, they are seeing some of this cloud repatriation traction as well. So if your choice was 2.43 minutes on the pool, you're the winner, because I'm not hearing you again. No. Oh, there you are.
2.43 minutes, huh? So actually, I actually did get a new cable. I'm going to try to replace the USB cable on this mic to see if that fixes the problem. What a pain.
I mean, I'm just curious, because once I point out the problem, you recover from it very quickly. So what are you changing after I say, hey?
So I have to go and I have to select another microphone that's on my system, like the one that's built into my webcam, and then I have to switch back to it. Okay.
That makes sense.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Computers are like, I've had the worst luck with computers lately, especially this one. I'm getting ready to, I think, get rid of this one and build a new one, because this guy has been a real pain in the butt. And I even blew it up and reloaded everything from scratch, checked everything, checked fans, checked all the connections, went through the BIOS, made sure I had it overclocked before. I turned that back a little bit. Everything's, as far as I can tell, everything's fine. It just hates me, Rich. That's what it is. It just hates me.
Gremlins.
So we were talking about cloud repatriation, and so you say reality.
I do.
So you think reality? Okay.
I think so.
Well, I know we're going to be coming up on time here pretty soon. So why don't I say myth, you say reality, everyone else go to the article and decide for yourselves which way you are. Are you Team Rich or are you Team Matt?
And apparently Matt's computer is on Team Rich. I'll just point that out.
My computer is on Team Rich. That's
keeps silencing you.
It's so tired of hearing me talk. All right. Well, that wraps up any other stories. Anything else you want to talk about in terms of the news or other stories?
No. I think that's it for this week on news and features.
All right. Well, I do have a museum pick and a tech pick for you for those folks. So for those who might be new to the show, I have a vast quantity of old computer hardware, gadgets, technology items, you name it. I have it. I call it a collection. My wife calls it a disease. But either way, I can't throw away anything tech related. But it's nice that we can go back and we can look at some of these old pieces and kind of see what things were like back in the day. And I got to tell you, Rich, back in the day, I'm pulling out stuff that like, wow, that doesn't seem like it was all that long ago, and it was pretty good. And then I start looking at dates, and it's like, holy crap, I'm getting old, man. So my museum pick this week, we're going to talk graphics cards. Okay. So my museum pick is this guy right here. If you're watching on video, you'll be able to see it. If you are listening to the podcast, you can go to the Matt's Gallery Picks gallery, and I try to throw images of this stuff up in there so you can take a look. But basically, this is the ASUS AX800 Pro is what I've chosen. This is a R400 series Radeon graphics cards, and when I picked it up and to talk about it, I'm like, oh, that's not that old. Like I remember using that. It played games well. It did stuff. And Rich, this was like 2004 era.
Wow.
I know, right? So it's like, oh my, that was like 15 years ago. Yeah, it was a lot longer than I thought. So for those who follow graphics cards, there was a point where it was basically 2D acceleration, and then came the Voodoo line of graphics cards from 3DFX, and that kind of changed the game a little bit, and put an emphasis on 3D graphics and 3D gaming. It was amazing back in the day, and then NVIDIA and ATI at the time. So this is an ATI product, not necessarily an AMD product, because AMD bought ATI a while back. It was NVIDIA took their path with the GeForce series for their consumer graphics cards. ATI had their Radeon series, and they've kind of kept that branding alive. Now there's like server cards and workstation cards and that kind of stuff, but for the gaming side, the gaming cards, it's the GeForce and the Radeon, and whenever you see all the high end stuff. So this was their fourth generation of or does it say third generation? Because I guess is the first generation 0? Is that how you put it? I don't know. Third or fourth, depending how you look at it. The R100 was the first Radeon, if you will, and then this is the R400, which was produced mid 2004 into 2000 through 2005, through most of 2005. Good card. This was not the fastest SKU of the 800 line, but it was, I'll give you some specs on it here, 256 megabytes of video memory, A core clock of 475 megahertz, a memory clock 900 megahertz. Let's see if I can give you some graphics numbers here. Megapixels per second, 7600. MOPS, 5700. Megatexels. Some of these are not even metrics you use anymore. 712.5 million vertices, mega vertices a second. So yeah, that's this. Rich, did you ever have you never really did a lot of gaming, right? You're not a big gamer.
Not a big gamer, no.
Yeah. So like, I remember at the time, this wasn't the largest graphics card. But you know, you used to see these coolers on them, and this was kind of a big cooler for this era. You know, not the biggest by any means, but a pretty big one. Now they're like these integrated, you know, double wide units that are pretty crazy. So this one was it was definitely a good card. It was out to compete against the NVIDIA 6800, 6700, 6600 line. This one has a VGA, a DVI, and that middle one is like an S-Video, S-Video, and then there's a little dongle cable. You could break it out to component video. And this guy actually was in use for quite a while. This was in a media center PC for a long time, because I was using the component video output on it back when before TVs supported like PC resolutions easily. It was just easier to get a card like this. So, any questions about this? I'm not really sure what else to say about it. 2004 era, you'd been playing games like, I don't even know off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look. But games from 2004, if you will. So anyway, that's my museum pick. Any questions about it?
No. It's remarkably well preserved for a device that
it is well preserved, and I doubt they have Windows 10 drivers for it, but I bet I could find a Windows 7 era PC, drop it in, and I bet the bad boy would still work. But why, Rich, if you're going to play games, why would you want to use an old graphics card when you could get a new graphics card that will run games, especially the games that this kind of card could play? It would say run those games at 60 frames per second. Well, now the modern card could run it at 1,000,000 frames per second. So that's what we're going to talk about. So that was then. This is now, and AMD just released a couple new variants of the Radeon, the 5700 and the 5700 XT. I don't really. There's not a lot of great ways to compare the processing power of these two cards, because they don't really they do so much of the different things. But I think I can give you textures, because I have numbers for textures. So this one was megatexels per second. The X800 Pro was 5,700 megatexels a second. Assuming that's what this particular one means, this one would be the 5700, not an XT, would be 248.4 gigatexels per second. So that's a pretty significant jump. Yeah. Clock speed on this guy was, we said, 475 megahertz. Core clock on the 5700 Max is at 1725. Doesn't give a memory clock though. It comes with 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory, whereas this one was 256 megabytes.
Wow.
I don't know what kind of memory is actually even on this, to be honest with you. If it was GDDR, it's going to be like GDDR1. But it's probably not even GDDR. I can't remember what year that debuted. It might even be whatever was before that. So definite differences. The reason why I want to talk about the 5700 and 5700 XT is to also mentioned the importance of competition. There has been like a stagnation in graphics cards, especially after the big, Bitcoin, digital currency kind of rush. Everyone buying every graphics card they could possibly find in order to mine cryptocurrency. But there's been kind of like this hold between in pricing. So a card, there was some stuff in the lower end. There wasn't really any movement in the mid range. We have some high end cards that are $1,000, $1,200. Well, in just this one card, AMD may put this out at $349 for the 5700. The new 5700 XT is $399, but they basically shifted the pricing of the whole market down. Because NVIDIA had to respond in kind and adjust some pricing. So now graphics cards that were $600 yesterday are now like $400 today. And that's a beautiful thing, especially when you're looking at building a new computer like me. And it's like, holy cow, I don't want to spend $700 on a graphics card. I really don't. So this fits a nice sweet spot. It does not, it performs really well. I'm trying to remember the NVIDIA card that it's kind of aimed to compete against, and I can't remember off the top of my head, and that really sucks. But it is the Rich, you tell me about graphics cards while I look it up.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, you've come to the right source.
I can tell you in 2 seconds. Hang on. It was I was just looking at this the other day, and platforms, industries, where is it? They don't have their graphics card stuff up like in a prominent location anymore. You have to go through autonomous machines and deep learning and AI before you get to that kind of stuff. 20 series. So NVIDIA, the 260. So AMD put this out to kind of compete against the 260, 270, and NVIDIA ended up having to replace those SKUs in response to that with the 260 Super and the 270 Super. 260 Super is still a little faster and has ray tracing, which is a feature that the Radeons are missing. But performance-wise, it's a good deal, and NVIDIA had to lower all the prices on those two respective cards to compete with these. So competition amongst the graphics cards are good. And at the top end, AMD and NVIDIA are kind of going back and forth. But this mid-range, lower level has been very, very NVIDIA dominant the last several years. So it's good to see AMD coming back in with something that is competitive and is putting some pressure on NVIDIA to not charge an arm and a leg for these things.
No, I'm just looking at the show notes here. So the RX 5700 is AMD?
So I picked the ASUS RX 5700 as my actual tech pick. Right. But it's basically the reference design for the 5700. Because the way it works is NVIDIA and AMD, they release like a reference design for a new platform, a new card, a new architecture, whatever they want to call it. And they say, here's what we built. And then they give it to their partners like MSI and Gigabyte and ASUS. And then they can run with that. And then they can start tweaking stuff so they can like tweak the coolers and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them, when one first launches, they just take the reference design and just push that out into the market and then come out with something later with souped up clock speeds, and they put their own little stamp on it.
Right.
So I picked an ASUS card for my museum pick. I picked the ASUS RX 5700 for that, but it's essentially the reference design for the RX 5700. You can get basically the same card from Gigabit, from ASRock, from MSI, from anyone who put that particular one out there. So that's it. That's the card. It looks like it's got good performance. It can run stuff. That was very specific. It runs stuff, Rich.
That's good.
All right. Well, I guess with that behind us, Rich, talking about stuff and the graphics cards and games, which I know it's making you want to go play some games now, right?
Yeah. We got to wrap up this podcast so I can get back to gaming.
What are you going to play, Rich?
I don't know.
Solitaire.
Yeah, that's about right.
Well, very good. So, Rich, you are impeccable about looking into the past. Or is it? Well, it's really James who looks into the past now, isn't it?
It is.
So, but every week, James looks into the past and tells us what happened, and then previews the week ahead and tells us what's going to happen. He's our own little fortune teller.
Well, he doesn't actually. We used to have a column in which we would forecast the week ahead. We're not actually doing that these days. So any soothsaying is actually just me, sort of off the cuff on the podcast here. But
so you are the fortune teller now.
I am, yeah. Now, but in terms of reading the past with crystal clear accuracy, that is James. Every Friday in the In Case You Missed It column, which appears on our website, ChannelProNetwork.com, James reviews all sorts of stories from the week that was that you may have overlooked. This week, so I'm sitting here in Las Vegas right now, right up the street from me, the Black Hat Conference, the DEF CON conference, those have been going on. And so James is going to have lots of security news for you. He's got some hardware news from Intel, among others, and he's also going to give you his take on yet another newfangled flavor of ice cream that the world probably doesn't really need. Unless you like your ice cream on hot dogs, which is a hint. You can check that out in case you missed it.
No ice cream on hot dogs. What is this evil blasphemy you speak of?
Yeah, just check it out, folks. I don't know. Somebody thought it was a good idea. Now, coming up, relatively slowish week next week as we are still, in vacation season here in the summer, but August 14th, ladies and gentlemen, is the ChannelPro Cybersecurity Online Summit. If you have not registered yet, you need to do that because there is a ton of great content that we've got for you about cybersecurity and the security market more generally, and sales and marketing related content, technical content, all sorts of information about making security a bigger part of your business. Check it out at events.channelpronetwork.com. Also, Adtran, a company with some interesting products around networking and cloud-based networking. I have not had a chance to write about those folks in longer than I realized until just recently. They are doing their annual conference next week. I will not be at that show, but I'm in the process of arranging a follow-up interview with some of their folks. So it'll be good to get a chance to catch up with them soon.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, that is going to wrap up episode 113. I want to thank you all for watching and listening to this particular show. If you would like to subscribe, that's the best way to kind of keep in touch and get new episodes and stuff as they come out, is by subscribing. You can go to channelpronetwork.com and you can go to any of the show pages there, and you'll see links to iTunes, Google Play Podcast, Stitcher, or if you go to really any podcast aggregator, you'll probably find us in there. So do that on your phone. If you want to subscribe to the video version, go to youtube.com, subscribe, and you got to hit a bell so you can subscribe, but then you'll still never know if we put a new show out, because they make you do two things. It's like two-factor authentication for video subscriptions. It's kind of weird how that works, but that is what you have to do. So subscribe, bell, poof, you'll get the new shows and stuff like that as they come out. If you want to follow us on the social networks, you can follow us. We are ChannelPro Network on Facebook, at ChannelPro SMB on Twitter. If you want to follow Rich on the Twitters, he is
at Rich Free.
And I'm at Matt Whitlock on Twitter if you want to follow me there. Another great way, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, anything like that, you can send us an email. podcast@channelpronetwork.com is the email address, and that goes straight to these two guys right here. So we'll definitely see your comments and suggestions and questions. We'll even talk about it on the air if you throw a question our way that we can address on the air. So we got that, and of course, ChannelProNetwork.com is the website. It is the website. You should have it up, bookmark it, set it as your start page. We have new news stories, articles, information, downloads, white papers, you name it, going up every hour, each and every day. So it's good for you to keep that there, and it's good for your business to stay informed on the latest and greatest. All right, what do you say, Rich?
I endorse that thought right there. It is good.
Endorsed from the man right there. All right, so thank you all again for listening to episode 113. We will see you all next week. Goodbye.